Welcome back to another episode of the Humble Hustle podcast. We're your hosts, Nick Jones and Kayla Ebner.
Hello, hello.
So, where are we today?
New studio vibes. Ascend Studio.
We are in the Ascend Studio.
The Ascend Studio. I love it.
So, we are in my studio office. It's new as of literally a month ago. I don't really know what to say about it. I like it a lot.
It's so vibey.
It's pretty much where I work for my office. My desk, editing is all over there. I also have the open space for any productions. I do mostly small product work, so it's easy for me to still shoot my stuff in here. I have this area set up for myself, just a lounge. I've already taken a nap on this couch.
Oh, nice.
And it's also designed for scenarios like this, so we can record podcasts and other random things.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I grabbed coffee at like the cutest coffee shop downtown Nashua. Is it okay if I say where we are? Yeah. Downtown Nashua. It's just like in the hub of town. It's perfect. This is such a good location. It's so clean in here. Obviously, I said this when I walked in, but I was like, I'm not shocked at how aesthetically pleasing it is with how you like to, style things and everything. You're very particular.
Before I moved in here, I came when it was still like an empty space, and I brought a tape measure and
Smart.
I measured everything, heights of ceilings, everything, built a whole 3D model on my computer with like furniture, color accurate, and like everything to scale. And pretty much what you see, it pretty much came true. My exact 3D model is exactly what happened here.
That's awesome.
So like I was very particular and I knew exactly what I wanted and how I wanted to lay out the space. Like that shelving is there on purpose as a dividing space between the loungy side and like the work side. And it's also functional to hold stuff.
Yeah, it's such a cool spot. I love it. I'm very excited for you, and I'm jealous. And now I think I might need my own. It's so
That's
cool.
kind of what everyone's been saying.
It's so amazing. You really brought it to life. Obviously it's hard working with like one room, but you definitely accomplished what you set out to do with like kind of breaking it up and everything. So
yeah, I pretty much
so good.
Did it by like quadrant. Like I have my like lounging, production, storage, and office desk.
Yeah, it's perfect. So you'll catch us here a lot more often. And thank you for letting us do this here. This is very exciting.
Of course. It's
So
still kind of in the works, but we figured we might as well just start filming in here now.
Yes. I'm so impressed that you got it done this quickly.
I tried.
Like,
it took a long time to like just move things in because I still had stuff going on. But
yeah,
I'm
busy
happy
time
with
of year.
where it is.
Yeah, it's awesome. Speaking of busy time of year, we both just closed out our wedding season.
Thank God.
I know. We're tired.
So yeah, I mean,
Unwell.
we are both still, we do commercial work, but yeah, we do still do weddings. But yeah, it was a long season for sure. Like I think this is the most I've shot in a year. And I was saying earlier off the mic, it kind of like ended, I don't want to say on a down note, but I don't know. The last handful were just more mentally draining than others.
Yeah.
So it definitely ended like harder than I wanted it to.
Yeah, that's tough when that happens because every wedding is so unique in its own way. And it can get crazy and stressful. Like I had a couple weddings this year that were totally chill. Didn't feel like I was in a rush, was able to get all my shots. And then I had a couple where I was like, holy fucking shit, I'm running like a chicken with my head cut off the entire day.
Yeah.
Like it's tough. And you have to just get into that zone where you get all the shots you need and you move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then at the end of the night, like there were times where I would sit down at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock they brought the food to my plate and I would just zone out because the entire day was just go, go, go.
Well, actually, yeah, I kind of want to start with you because we had previous episodes a long time ago talking before wedding season started pretty much. And you were saying, this is your first full, I guess, year really diving into wedding videography. So completing that first full year.
On the other side.
How do you think it went overall?
I'm really happy with how it went. Not only just with quality wise, I think I really stepped my game up this year in terms of the quality of my videos. I invested in a lot of new gear this year for weddings, and it definitely paid off. I'm so happy with, I really stepped up my game with audio, incorporating audio into my videos, lighting even. So all of that really came together. It's a lot more work setting up all that stuff for a video wedding.
Yes. Especially if you do them by yourself.
Yeah. So I do shoot a couple weddings solo.
I could never.
But even those went well this year. Like my solo weddings, I was so happy with how the day went and how everything came out. And then also just figuring out my process. I think that was probably the biggest thing. Yeah.
Earlier on, like, because you didn't really know what direction you wanted to go in. So over the course of the year, do you think you were able to at least figure out what works, what didn't work, and what you want to really grow on for next year?
Yes. I think I figured out my style.
Okay.
Which is cool. Yeah. So the process I definitely figured out. I think the only thing that I really want to hone in going forward is the pre-production part of it. So I do want to implement maybe a couple more things in, the pre-wedding phase of not only just like getting ready for the wedding, but, interacting with clients and stuff. We were kind of talking about that too. But just a couple things that I want to do differently there. But I figured out my style, and I think the way that I'm trying to phrase it is I take a candid approach to the day. So not necessarily, because there's the cinematic weddings, there's the documentary style where it's a lot of like talking and interviewing almost. I want to land right in the middle where I'm just taking a candid approach to the day. I'm capturing the day as it unfolds. I'm catching all of the big moments, but also the little moments that you're not going to necessarily see as the wedding couple because you're busy living out the day. So like there was a moment at a wedding where there was a grandpa dancing with his grandchild on the dance floor, and the wedding couple was elsewhere, but it was a really sweet moment that I was able to capture that they can look back on, and like that's a nice memory that they're going to have. So it's not superposed, not crazy polished, I would say, in like the more cinematic way of filming, but I just am trying to call it like a candid style.
Okay.
So
I don't think it matters what style you have as long as you found your style and you stick with it.
Mm-hmm. So they've turned out really, really great so far. I have 3 more to finish up editing for the year, and then 1 photo wedding to edit. It was my last photo wedding. We'll talk about that. We both did a photo wedding this year. But I also just loved every second of it, even the craziness of, some of the days where it was the running around. I just really had a good time, which means, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
Because if you hate it, it's not going to work.
Right. And I definitely didn't hate anything of it, but there were some questionable times, but if anything, it just makes for good stories.
Exactly.
Like, man, I've told the story to a handful of people and they all think like it's going to be years before you can have a story that tops this one.
Oh my God. I know. We will maybe.
I can't talk about it on the mic just yet.
Yeah, not yet. Maybe we'll talk about this year's stories next year. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have some stories too. We'll have to figure that out. But yeah. So how did your season go?
I think overall good. I think we ended with 15, nice. I believe. A solid mixture of, normal weddings. We did our first bat mitzvah. We did some cultural weddings. And I did 1 photography wedding, which I don't normally do, but it was a special circumstance. I remember the year starting off strong. Like the first handful were like good. Summer weddings were amazing. And then we had a little downtime, and then we kind of picked back up again in fall for a kind of last little go. And like I said, those ones were just a little more like mentally draining than the earlier ones. Just it was more involved. But overall, I think it went really well. Like we've already replaced a handful of our films on our website with this year's ones from our past summer. So they've already come out much better than our previous year, just like you. Like, we're constantly improving as well. So yeah, I think overall it went really well.
Yeah. And so you don't shoot weddings solo.
No, and I never will.
So I just wanted to bring that up because it's an interesting topic. I feel like, so there were a couple weddings this year where I did shoot with a second shooter and some that I did solo, and it's an entirely different experience.
Yeah, like I have a reason I do it, but
yeah, it's just, I definitely think it's easier to have a second person just to get the shots that, like, of the details of the reception setup, or
right,
like even just having a secondary angle for certain things definitely puts your mind at ease.
Or as simple as carrying your shit.
Right.
Especially with all the lighting stuff that you now have to deal with. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's literally just a second set of hands is so helpful.
Yes. Yeah, that's so right. It's so true. I also feel like when I have a second shooter, sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on part of the day, because usually when you have two people, one person goes to get ready with the bride and one person goes to get ready with the groom. And by the time I'm like reunited with the whole wedding party, I don't know any of the guys. Like, it's just an interesting dynamic of splitting up the time.
That's true, actually. I never really thought about it like that.
It's really weird. I'm like introducing myself for the first time, especially if they're getting ready at completely different locations.
Sure.
I usually try to check in with both the bride and groom beforehand, but sometimes it's not possible.
Yeah.
So that's just a really interesting thing with weddings, is how you communicate with clients and all of that. But yeah, it's definitely helpful to have a second set of hands.
So I only work with the same person, basically. So me and my business partner, Sam, we run our wedding business together. Mm-hmm. And it's always him and I there, unless, one of us is sick or something, knock on wood, happens to us. Mm-hmm. But it's always pretty much going to be us. And we've shot weddings together for years at this point, where it's a very unique dynamic where it's not the usual. It's definitely easier to see it in like photography. There's always clearly the lead photographer and clearly the second photographer. The second photographer is obviously like there just to support the lead and like pretty much do whatever they need to be doing. For us, and like that happens in the video world too. There's always, or most of the time, there's going to be a lead video person, and then the second videographer is just there to, do what the lead asks them to do. Mm-hmm. But for us, we've worked together for so long that we know each other's strengths and weaknesses. We know our style is locked in, like at least that we have now, because we've just been together for so long, that our styles of filming is pretty much identical. And it's now grown to the point where we are two leads throughout the whole day. So we just kind of co-lead every wedding. Neither one of us is the lead. Neither one of us we say is like in charge. It's like we both trust each other to do what needs to be done. And like if one of us is like feeling off that day, the other one will just carry on, like step in and maybe lead a bit more. And that happens to both of us. Sometimes I'm just not feeling it, and sometimes Sam's not feeling it, and the other one will carry throughout the day. Mm-hmm. But then when we're both on and we're both feeling it all day, that's when it's like really, really great, because neither of us are stepping on each other's toes. We both know the exact shots we need, so we can just split up and know the other one has it handled. And what you were saying about, missing out on, say, if I go to the bride, he goes to the groom, missing out on meeting those guys for the first time. I've never thought of it like that, and that is definitely true. Mm. Like, I see them for the first look, and most of the time, if I'm with the bride, that's my first look with the groom too. So I'm like doing a quick intro. I mean, I've seen him on the Zoom calls, but it's my first time meeting him in person. And the groomsmen, I've never seen ever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, later on when I'm doing the full wedding party photos and groomsmen stuff, like, yeah, I do a quick intro, and I might not be as connected with them as maybe I'd want to be, but I know Sam is. So like he can handle all those people and he has a better connection with them. So it's something I just don't have to worry about. And I don't want to say I don't care about, because I would love to get to know them all, but I know that, if I'm really close to all the bride and the bridesmaids, and Sam's close to the groom and the groomsmen, they're all going to have a good experience, because we're going to work with one of us really closely. So it's something I just don't have to worry about.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point, that you guys just have that relationship where you could probably give him a look
Oh,
and
yeah.
he will know exactly what you're
At
talking
this point,
about.
we do that all the time.
It's amazing. And you have your headsets that you can talk
The
to each other.
headsets help a
So
lot.
fancy.
So we invested in those this year.
Yeah, that's
just
awesome.
to enhance our communication even more. But yeah, there's been many times where one of us will just look at each other or like we'll say like a word or two and we know exactly what we need to do.
Yeah.
But the headsets have saved us multiple times this year already.
Yep.
There was one, it was a pretty smooth move. I'm not going to lie. So there was one in particular moment where it was a ceremony and we use a little mic sleeve. You use it too. It's a Sony TX660 and it slides right onto the handheld mic. And this officiant was a little strange because he did not stand still. He like ripped the mic off and started just walking around.
Oh.
And I was like, what is this dude doing for what, first of all? So the groom had already walked down. I think the wedding party had already walked down, and there was like a fairly long gap in between them and the bride. So the bride still hasn't come down, and this officiant was just like pacing back and forth, like talking, saying some random stuff. I don't remember what, but our TX660 fell off, and when he ripped it off, the mic stand, and it just was on the ground, and then he picked it up and he looked at it. He thought he like probably broke something, and then he just placed it back on the mic stand, just like balancing it on the mic stand, not on his actual handheld thing. So he was like, 15 feet over there. The Kit Kat is what we call it. The microphone, our backup, was still on the mic stand. And I was in the aisle ready to film the bride walking down. And Sam was over by one of our cameras who happened to be near the officiant. And I called him on the headset and I said, okay, I think we have a minute. The bride's not coming yet. I'm going to grab this, give it to you if you grab the mic from the officiant and stick it back on.
Oh, God.
So I like still have my gimbal in one hand, filming down the aisle just in case she came. I reached with one hand, went behind my back. Sam ran up, grabbed it, and smoothly put it back on the officiant's mic, gave it back to him.
Oh, my God.
And we were good. So it worked out.
Do you have that on film?
It's probably on our backup cam, yeah.
Oh, my God. You should post that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was one moment where the headsets totally saved us.
So did you have the officiant mic'd, or was that your only, was that your main source of audio?
So we definitely had other people mic'd, but like we want backups.
Yeah, of
so
course,
we still say it has saved us, even though, yeah, sure, we probably had other sources.
It could have fallen off the mic stand and fell on the ground and someone could have stepped on it and broke it. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Because our main audio source didn't work for that day. That got screwed up. So we couldn't rely on that. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So that was a smooth move. That's stressful. Oh, my God.
Yeah, all that to say, communication is key. And working with the same person on every single wedding, we definitely have a shorthand.
Yeah, that's nice. I think, I don't know, shooting solo weddings, I think I've developed my own little like solo process, which is nice. It's a little bit more pressure, I think. You gotta rely on you. If you have a bad day, suck it up, buttercup.
Exactly.
You gotta get shit done.
So true.
Do it, It's fun, it's stressful, but I think I finally have gotten it down to where I'm really comfortable, and I wanna definitely crank up the volume for weddings next year. I did 5 of my own this year, and then I shot 2 on behalf of my friend Greg. He kind of brought me in to do a couple of his. Mm-hmm. So I've had a lot of fun just learning how I want to operate. And I think next year is going to be even better.
Yeah, I forgot what I was trying to say earlier is like the reason I shoot with 2 people is because like the style of film that we produce, we just need 2 people for.
Yep.
Like I would not be able to produce the same film if it was by myself, because one of the reasons our films look the way they do is because we shoot on primes for the most part. And we've learned, again, over multiple years of doing this, our strengths and weaknesses and our preferences. So I prefer to film on a 50 millimeter lens, and Sam prefers to be on a 35. So that just happens to work out where he can get all the wide things. 35 is wide enough for 90% of things.
Yep.
And then 50 is so versatile that I can do pretty much whatever I want. And we're experimenting with an 85. So Sam might be switching to an 85 and we might go 50-85. But for the most part, yeah, our 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter setup on prime lenses is just how we operate.
Yeah. It's so crazy to me that you don't have a 24/70.
I do not.
I use that a lot on wedding days, but I do think like if I had 2 people, maybe I wouldn't need to do that. And like you guys do, it would just be 2 primes because I love shooting on my 50. It just looks so good. But yeah, I use my 24/70 a lot, I think, on
Which
wedding
makes
days.
sense. And that's exactly what it's for.
Yeah.
A solo shooter versatility tool. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting. We're shooting a wedding together next year. One so far. Yeah. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about, can we talk about the difference between shooting a photo wedding and a video wedding? Because we both shot one photo wedding this year. I'm not doing any more photo weddings. I used to. I just found that I really enjoy shooting video a lot more. So I'm trying to focus on that. Shooting a photo wedding is a completely different brain than shooting a video wedding.
It is.
I just can't even like describe the way that I think about it is photo weddings. I'm in more of a like director role almost. It's a lot more coordination and you're kind of almost dictating the timeline, especially if there's no wedding planner or coordinator. You are kind of responsible for keeping the day moving along because you know you have certain shots to get before the ceremony. Ceremony starts at this time. You need to get all of the photos done beforehand. You need to get the first look if there's going to be one. If people want to get family photos done, you need to do that. You're in charge of calling up all of the family members that need to be grouped together. Like, it's just a lot more, I think, mentally in terms of coordination. When I'm doing video, it's more of I can focus on the shots that I'm going to get and not worry about like keeping things moving along because usually that is what the photographer's doing and you can almost kind of like go off of the timeline that they've created. I will say there was a wedding this year where the photographer did not step into that role. So I had to step into that role. So the photographer was a little bit more laid back, didn't take charge as much as I think photographers normally do. So I had to step into that role and make sure that things kept moving along. And it worked out. But usually for a video wedding, it was pretty unusual that happened. It's not usually the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree for the most part. I think usually, yes, the photographer is a little bit more, quote unquote, in charge of the day in terms of the whole creative team. What we try and do is, it's easier to, be that fly on the wall and pretty much just follow in what the photographer does. And sure, we definitely do that to an extent, 100%. But I do want to try and we've been actively trying to be a little bit more involved because, if the photographer everyone's different. Every photographer is going to be different. So if they might be very collaborative, but they might just work very fast. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when people work fast, the video team doesn't always have a second to get what they need.
Right.
So when they move fast like that, it's your job to tell them to stop and hold on. We need to get this. Because if you don't, it's not the photographer's fault. It's your fault. Mm-hmm. It's your fault if you don't get it because they were moving fast. You should have said something.
Yes.
So we definitely try and make sure our voices are heard throughout the day. Yeah, we do lean on the photographers. They sometimes lean on us. We have our own creative poses. We definitely steal a couple from the photographer every time, but they sometimes steal from us. So it's a collaborative effort for sure. So we do try and let them do their job first, and then we'll step in.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is I usually try to communicate to, especially the wedding party, you're going to be looking at the photographer most of the day.
Every time. I'm like,
try not to look at our cameras unless we tell you to.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, I feel like there are those photographers that are super aggressive and fast, like you said, and they will leave you behind in the dust if you don't speak up. So it's in those cases where, in a perfect world, I think a photographer and videographer relationship to me works in the way of the photographer gets their shots. I'm kind of piggybacking off of what they're doing. And then I have a couple specific shots in mind that they didn't do.
Exactly.
So once they're done, I step in and say, okay, hey guys, I'm just going to do a couple quick shots with you. You can look at my camera now. We'll do this, this, and this. I try to make it quick because you don't want to have to recreate every single shot that the photographer's doing. So piggyback off of what they're doing, get your own angle of those, and then you can incorporate your own shots into it. Because I also don't want all of the video to look the exact same as the photos. Like, I want it to be a unique experience for the couple. So working together is so important. And if you don't speak up, a lot of them will just go.
100%. We try and be efficient.
Oh yeah.
So like before, let's say like the photographer has everyone grouped a certain way. Before they move and start like walking or something, if I want to do something with them in this specific arrangement, I will tell them, okay, hold up. I want to do something before they move.
Yes.
So like try and do that also. Like if they're already in a formation and you want to get that, there. Don't let them break formation. Just do it now.
Yes.
Even if you have to interrupt the photographer.
Especially if it's a big wedding party. Corralling people is very difficult. The last wedding I just did, there was 11 on each side. It was a lot. So a big group, you're a little bit more limited, I think, in terms of posing with a big group, especially if, you don't have a lot of space to work with. But just making sure that you're over communicating and, like you said, just keep them in that same place.
Yeah.
Nobody move. Everyone's paying attention. It can be hard to corral a bigger wedding party.
So I guess back in the vein of, the differences between like photo and video, so I've only done a few photography weddings, but the one I did this year, I was pretty much solely in charge and there was no videographer.
Okay.
So it was good and bad. It was good because I didn't have anyone to compete with, no one to get in my way. But like I was saying earlier, it's bad because I don't have anyone to piggyback off of. Because just as much as the videographers piggyback off the photographers, same goes the other way around. So everything creative fell on me.
Oh, yeah.
So that was definitely hard. And being a natural introvert, like with the videographer, it's easy because I can turn it on in spurts. And then I can do what I need to do, high energy. And then as soon as it's over, I can turn around and be like, oh, okay.
Yes.
But with the photography, I had to turn it on and leave it on all day. And that is hard for me.
So hard.
Because I had to keep everyone engaged and make sure the couple was comfortable because they did vocalize that they were not totally comfortable with getting posed and everything like that. So they were a little iffy. So making sure that they felt good throughout the day was a huge priority.
Yep.
So there was just a lot I had to do. I did have a second with me, and that definitely helped. Distributing some small tasks to them, just asking them to go do things for me. But yeah, that was definitely hard for me personally. Especially being the introvert, just to have that all the creativity fall on me because I definitely do rely on the photographers for some creative posing and stuff like that. And I had to really dig deep in the reels of my head to be like, okay, what can I do?
Exactly. I know. And I feel like there are so many incredible wedding photographers out there. The ones that have been doing it for years, I just feel like they go into their Rolodex of poses and they just have they can just pull out the most amazing things.
I had to really think.
Yeah. I actually I grabbed a bunch on Pinterest that I wanted to do for this particular wedding couple.
I made a Pinterest board for myself to refer to.
I love it. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that because especially if you're in a time crunch, you might forget one that you really wanted to do.
And I'm not a natural wedding photographer.
Yeah, we're not perfect. So
I will say
having something.
Sam said I was like, maybe this is a hot take, but Sam's like, no, this is a cold take.
Ooh,
everyone believes this. Because I was like, I think it's much easier for wedding videographers to transfer into wedding photography than wedding photographers into wedding videography. And after I thought about it, I was like, yeah, no, that's a cold take. That's pretty true.
So explain.
So the skills of a wedding videographer are different than a wedding photographer, but I would argue that most videographers in general didn't start just learning video. They started with photography.
Yes, that's
because
a good
the foundations of videography are pretty much the same as photography.
True.
But it's not the same in reverse.
Yep, you're right.
So there's more skills you need to know for videography, technically wise. that most photographers probably wouldn't know.
It's true.
So for videographers switching to a photography mind, it's pretty seamless because it kind of just revert back to those foundational things. Whereas if a photographer was going to a videographer side, there would be some things that they've never seen before or might not know how to do with the camera settings wise. So yeah, I was like, yeah, like it felt fine because like I could totally do it and like be the wedding photographer, especially because I watch every other photographer I'm with. Like,
yes,
I observe, I like take notes. So like I just do what I saw. I would do everything that they did.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a really good point. And I think that most photographers, I've talked to a couple of wedding photographers who have said, you know, I asked them, do you experiment in video? Do you do any videos?
No.
Most of them
like,
say,
no,
hell
no.
no.
Yeah.
Most of them say, hell no.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different animal. And I think even in the post-production phase, it takes so much more time. Editing a wedding video is a beast.
Editing photos is so easy. Come on, you can just copy and paste your settings.
I know you can. And with the Lightroom AI, like, first of all, noise reduction is incredible nowadays, but also with the like object removal tools and the smart objects and all that stuff.
Right, yeah,
like,
all the Photoshop that you can do.
Oh, it's so much easier
You can't
now.
really do that with video.
No,
it's
not
so
at all.
hard, so it's not even worth it.
Hard. Sometimes when I'm working with a photographer, and we're like in a fast-paced environment, we're trying to get a shot really quick. They're like, don't worry about it. We'll just Photoshop it. And I'm like, but wait a second, because I need the video, so I can't Photoshop a video.
Yep.
So it's a totally different beast at editing a wedding video. I don't know if you do this, but for one video I shot this year, I did have a second shooter, and we had so much footage. And when I was editing the video, I actually broke it down into sections of the day and made timelines of all the clips based on pre-wedding, like getting ready. I broke it up into that, ceremony, reception, and speeches into different timelines so that it made it easier to pull clips. Like, editing a wedding video is tough. It's a lot of work.
I mean, yeah, I could definitely go in the weeds of editing, but I feel like
it's a lot.
People might not understand the language I would use. But yeah, I have a system for sure.
You have to, because it's intense. It's a lot different than editing a photo wedding. Yeah. There's just so many nuances to
You could just be watching Netflix as you edit a photo wedding.
I know. Or listening to music and not listening to the same song over and over and over.
That's low-key like the worst part, actually.
It's
That's
like being an
so
insane
true.
asylum.
Like, so the video I showed you earlier, that song... Also, that whole one, like that song was drilled into me.
Oh,
because I literally heard it so many times as I was going through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think actually, now you say that, that's probably my least favorite part. Hearing the songs over and over again.
Oh, it's torture. But it's what we do. Yeah. And the result is usually very worth it. Yeah. So fun. I also saw... I started making a list because there were so many things this year. I paid very close attention to details of weddings and what I liked versus what I didn't like. And so I made like a little list of things that I liked about the weddings this year and just like in terms of filming for a video. And I think the best videos that I filmed this year were ones that had a stellar wedding coordinator. Having a good wedding coordinator is so helpful on a wedding day. There's this one girl, shout out to Nicole Gabriella. I'm just going to say her name. She was incredible. It was like a backyard wedding, a smaller wedding. But the entire day she was just there to help the couple, not only them, but also the vendors. I never had to question when things were happening. She was always there to tell me, oh, hey, like, we're just switching this little thing up here. She was there from the beginning of the day till the end, just for anything that any of us needed. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And the day went so smooth.
I think for the most part, I would agree. I don't think I've ever had a bad time with a planner, but I've definitely had some good times without one.
No, it's true. I totally get that.
But so they definitely don't hurt it. They definitely help. Yeah. Like I shot the one with Amanda this year, who was on the podcast earlier. That was flawless.
Yeah.
Like any somewhat mishap that might have happened was not her fault at all. It was like some other outside problems, but it still went totally fine. And then I had other ones that did not have planners that were also great.
Yeah. It's just totally different because there's no one there to tell anyone to hurry up. So keeping a timeline without a wedding coordinator is a little bit more of a challenge.
See, the thing is, I don't like using this phrase like I don't care, but when it comes to, keeping everything on pace, in reality, I feel like it doesn't matter that much because nothing's going to happen without the couple. So
it's true.
If they're running late, it's not like they're going to start without them.
It's true. But in terms of, like, there was an example this year, a wedding ran like 45 minutes to an hour late, and it was crunch time to get family photos done because they ran so late. And they almost didn't get, the couple really wanted to attend their cocktail hour, and they almost didn't get to do that because the photos were so behind. So there are instances where it can really
I don't want to say this
back.
again, but in that specific case, that's like not my problem because family photos is not something we focus on for the video.
Right. But if it pushes the entire rest of the day back, like dinner's not going to move. They are going to be serving dinner at the same time. Like guests are going to be arriving at a certain time. So if the bride needs to be tucked away before the guests arrive, that's still going to have to happen.
Sure.
Like there are certain moments in the day that do need to be kept, and it can just cause a little bit of a
I'm not going to say it doesn't make things harder, but I feel like I'm just so used to just like going with the flow.
Yeah.
That it just doesn't really matter for me anymore.
Every wedding runs at least 10 to 15 minutes late, which is not a big deal. But when you start pushing 45 minutes to an hour, it can really screw up the day.
Yeah,
but
I guess I haven't had one that bad.
Comes in handy. And I just had a couple of really good experiences this year that I wanted to say. I also have experienced some really hands-off wedding coordinators, which is strange. But yeah, definitely had some good experiences with wedding coordinators. Yeah. The other thing I love is a live band. Love a live band.
I feel like my opinion has somewhat shifted on them.
Yeah.
Like I still like them.
Okay, so were you yes?
At one point I preferred live bands to DJs. And so this is what I'll say now. I still prefer live bands to DJs if they're good.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
So a good band is better than a good DJ, but an average DJ is better than an average band.
That's a great point. Yeah, I would have to agree. It's just it's a nice live element to it that it makes it fun for filming, to capture like a multiple piece crew. There was this one wedding I shot this summer where they were just so incredibly talented. They're called the Sultans, and there were multiple singers. There were saxophones. There was a pianist. There were all sorts of different instruments, and they all were some of the most talented people I've ever seen. Like this one guy in particular sounded exactly like Frank Sinatra. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, and obviously I think live bands are significantly more expensive than DJs. I think that's usually the
probably average. I don't know for sure, but I would assume so.
So I guess that, most people do DJs. I don't see a lot of live bands. I see mostly DJs. And both have their perks.
From a vendor perspective, I prefer DJs because it's just a lot easier to work with a single person.
Yes. And it's easier to figure out like the audio situation, obviously, too.
Yeah. I mean, normally in the band, there is probably a point person that you can just talk to. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's still a lot of their own equipment they need to plug in. Just they take a lot more time to set up. Mm-hmm. Whereas if there's a solo DJ, I can just be like, hey, can I plug in? They're like, sure. There you go. Plug, done.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had some great DJs. I don't think I've really had any bad experiences with DJs.
I wasn't going to say this, but I guess I will. If I get canceled, so be it. So we had some rough experiences with DJs this year.
Oh, no.
Like, it was bad. Like, they were just... I guess sometimes it was them just being difficult people to work with. Other times, their equipment was just kept failing. And we knew 100% we weren't going to be able to use it, which is why the backups are all in place. Mm-hmm. But it still kind of sucks. Like that's still the cleanest audio.
It's the cleanest audio.
So if we can use it, we will. But when we hear it just cutting out every 10 seconds, we already know it's like, okay, this is useless.
God. Yep.
And that happened, something about their equipment failing or them being just hard to work with probably happened at least 5 times.
Wow, really?
And at one point it got so bad, the audio cutting out, we thought it was our headsets, because we always tell the couple that all of our audio equipment does not transmit a wireless signal. There should be 0 interference. And then we thought our headsets actually, I think they do. Clearly, they probably do. So we were like, is it us? And then we turned off our headsets. It was during the ceremony.
Yep.
So we turned them off, and then we just listened. The audio still kept cutting out. And we're like, all right, good. It's not us.
Not
Turning
you.
them back on.
That was a good test.
So,
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. So even though, yes, normally they're easier to work with, this year it just happened to be a little difficult.
That sucks. Working with any difficult vendors is a challenge. Because
I think photography-wise, this year was one of the best.
I had a couple doozies with photographers.
Oh, I don't think I had any really bad experiences. I think everyone was either like just average or like really pleasant to work with.
For the most part, they were great, but there was one instance in particular where it was bad. And it just sucks when that happens, because then like just obviously you work through it, and I would never ever tell the couple that I'm having an issue. You just figure it out. But it just
as in like the
makes,
photographer is giving you issues?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it just kind of makes the day a little bit more challenging. It kind of like sucks the fun out of it a little bit in a way.
No, it absolutely does. Yeah.
But you just kind of figure it out. But yeah, dealing with difficult vendors is just, it's so much better when you have a good relationship and you vibe with the vendors all day. It's just like, there's nothing better.
So like I said earlier, you know, I shoot always with 2 people. So being a 2-person video team, I love when it's a solo photographer.
It's rare.
Because that's happened a couple
rare.
times this year. And it just makes our job so much easier because, like I said, Sam and I are fine splitting up and doing what we need to do. But when we are together for everything, we're next level.
Yes.
So like for the getting readies, we didn't have to split up. So we were both there for both sides. So we would get so much like just better coverage with both of us being there.
It's also easier with one photographer when they don't split up the wedding party. Like, you know that they're all going to be in the same spot. Because a lot of the times one photographer will take the girls and one will take the guys. And if it's just me as a solo shooter for video, I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what side to go to first and then figure out how to get the shots of the other side of the wedding party. So that can be a challenge too. But yeah, I do think that working with a solo photographer is a bit easier. There was one wedding that had 3 photographers this year, which was interesting. But yeah, I agree with you.
It's also easier, like, it's one less person to get in your way.
Exactly.
And then
again, I can't Photoshop a video.
They normally don't have they don't have someone to bounce ideas off of. So when they run out of ideas, it gives me more of a window for us to step in and like do our own thing rather than having to wait for the 2 of them to figure something out together and do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, another thing I really liked was I have smaller wedding party and backyard weddings kind of like in the same tier because it happened in the same wedding.
Yeah. What do you mean by small? Like how small are we talking?
Like a few. Like a handful.
2 on each side? 3?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
2 to 5, maybe. But there was this one wedding in particular where they had a smaller wedding party, and it was just, honestly, I think it was more of the couple than having a smaller wedding party and a smaller wedding in general. They were just such nice people, and they were so chill. Like, both of them were extremely lax the whole day. There was like no stress in the day at all. It was incredible. Yeah,
no, that's everything we've talked about could go perfectly, but it all falls on the couple, honestly.
Right.
Like the wedding film that you helped on that one time, I won't say their names, but like everything was great. The vendors were all great. The DJ was great. The venue was great. But what was even better was the couple. Like they were so chill, so into being filmed and photographed. They literally let us do whatever we wanted. And that's why that film came out so good. Not because of everything else.
Yeah.
Because the couple was so into it and let us do our thing.
Yep.
And did not complain one time. If we said, one more photo, one more video, like 10 times, they didn't care. Like we're like, oh no, one more. Oh no, wait, one more. Actually, one more.
Sorry,
like,
I lied. One more.
Like they were totally
That's my
for
favorite
it
line.
because they just knew that what we were doing was what we needed to do. And the final product showed for sure.
Yeah. When you get their full trust and they just let you do what you want to do and let you creatively take control, it's amazing. It's just so much fun. Things I did not like. Let's see. Oh, super short ceremonies.
Right.
By super short, I don't know what I'm really getting at here. I think like under 8 minutes, maybe.
That is considered short. I'd say the average is probably like 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, 20 minutes is great, I think. And then I've done a couple Catholic church ceremonies, which is typically a whole mass,
full
which
hour,
is an hour. But I, as a solo shooter, like if I'm shooting a video by myself and it's a really short ceremony, it just can be challenging to get more dynamic, like a wider range of shots for the ceremony. But chances are, if they're having a shorter ceremony, it's not necessarily like something that they need you to focus on like a lot.
Right. It's short for a reason.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yep. So as long as, that is made explicitly clear that it's okay that you don't get like a crazy amount of shots of the ceremony, then I think you're good.
Yeah.
But it just is a little bit it's a little stressful.
I had my shortest ceremony ever just a week ago, but it was very communicated that they were just here to party.
Okay.
So they just wanted to get through it as soon as possible. It was, I don't know exactly, but it was probably under 5 minutes long.
That's crazy.
It was funny how short it was. Like it was like crazy short. And I was like, oh shit, wait, it's over.
Went down the aisle, said I do, and recessed down that aisle.
Yeah, and the funny part was afterwards, everyone had already dispersed, and the officiant had to go back up and be like, can I have everyone's attention? I actually spoke a little too fast. The bar is not going to open for another 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
So if you don't mind just hanging around.
No way. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. Yeah, a short ceremony. It's different. Other thing is I think speeches need to be capped at like 8 minutes.
I agree. Like I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine if they're long, if they're like really good.
Yes.
But most of them aren't really good. At least not good for 10 minutes. Maybe like 5 minutes of it is good. But yeah, 8 minutes is probably long enough.
I don't think it needs to be any longer than that. I think after that people get antsy and fidgety and
to be honest, half the reception hall is probably not listening to them anyway.
That's true.
Not because they shouldn't be, just because a lot of people just don't listen. They're like eating, or I see people at their own tables having conversations during the speeches, and I'm like, guys, come on, just listen.
I know. And then I love a funny speech, like there was a roast at the last wedding that I shot. The best man was just roasting the groom. They were like best friends growing up forever.
The best man ones are normally funny.
Oh, it was so good. It was one of the best ones that I've heard all year. I heard some really good speeches this year. So I love when people have just like such nice things to say. I love a dad speech. Always gets me, the tears always come when the father-daughter dance or the speeches for the dads. But I love having good speeches because it just makes the video that much more fun when you can add a little bit of that audio in there. And I think it's just such a good memory for the couples to look back on too.
Yep.
Yeah.
What else don't you like?
We already talked about this, but I said difficult vendors and then running more than 15 to 20 minutes behind schedule.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, I think overall the wedding season went really well. I'm super happy with how the videos came out so far. I think the last 3 videos that I'm editing are going to be some of my favorites. So I'm excited to see how those come out. And then for next year, I've got it under my belt now. I've got my system, and I'm going to try to I'm aiming for 10 to 15 weddings next year.
Yeah, that's a good goal.
I really want to shoot more. I loved doing it, and I'm ready to crush it.
Awesome. Yeah. Pretty much same. I'm happy it's over, but now I just got to edit, which is going to take some time.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we're already revamping everything. Like pretty much as soon as the 2024 season was over last week, we immediately shifted gears and started prepping for 2025. So we did a website overhaul, creating new things for our couples, like streamlining our process. So yeah, we're excited for 2025 already.
Yeah, me too. I'm pumped. If anyone has any questions about shooting weddings, let us know. Write a comment. If you're a wedding couple that's getting married next year, if you're engaged, like you have questions about how to have a great video, let us know. And then are we going to do a hot takes episode soon? We keep saying that.
Yeah. We will eventually.
Do it.
We will eventually.
We will do it. We've been busy. Now that things are quieting down a little bit, we'll definitely get to a hot takes episode.
If anything, they can be full of my own hot takes because I got a lot.
Oh yeah, we have plenty between the two of us, but we definitely want to hear from you guys. So yeah, submit your hot takes, link in bio, and in the show notes.
Yep.
And I think that's it.
That's it. We'll
All right.
see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.